Hi, very good morning to all of you. I mean, morning if you are seeing this in the morning, or afternoon if you are having this in the, you're having a look at this video in the afternoon, or evening if you are seeing it at evening time. So today we are going to discuss the next learning outcome. So the first learning outcome, just to reflect on, you had certain theories. We discussed about the deductive approaches of quarters, of Levin, and we retrospected on how exactly the change management works. Why understanding change management is important in a career or in a formal setup. Today we are going to take on different perspectives of changes. So understand change from different perspectives. That's what we are going to look at. So I'll just put that down. Understand change from different perspective. Yeah. So that's what is going to. This is what we are going to discuss. And in this, there are three things which are important for understanding the change from different perspective. The first thing which you need to understand is the organizational cultural perspective. Okay, so organizational culture perspective. Then next thing which you need to understand is the power and political perspective. Yeah. And then the last thing is, which you need to understand when it comes to change, is organizational learning perspective. So these are a couple of three kind of changes which you need to look at. These are the three changes which you have to look at when it comes to understanding the change from different perspectives. So one is the organizational change which you need to look at. Another is your power and politics, how they affect the changes. They play an important role when it comes to change. And the third is from the learning perspective, what you should learn to tackle with the change, or to work with the change, what you should learn. So these are the three different types of changes which you have to keep in mind when you are trying to understand change from different perspective. So when it comes to the organizational change, the first kind of a change where we will try to understand certain different perspective. So in organizational changes, there are things like the first one, which is your in organizational cultural perspective. The first one is your informal changes. Okay, so what is an informal change? Informal change. Okay, informal change is something which happens because of a friendship you have or with your colleague, or you are probably you're a very good friend of someone, or you share a very good informal relationship with someone in the organization. You probably have lunch together every day, or you share a cup of tea together every day during the working hours. And then suddenly what happens that the office is shifted off that person, or he's transferred to another city, or probably transferred to another department, and then you guys cannot meet anymore. That's basically an informal change. But to an extent, this is something related to your hygiene factors. Now, what are hygiene factors? As I mentioned earlier, in an organization, by hygiene we mean anything which is not demotivating you, but somehow it is related to your dissatisfaction. So again, being dissatisfied does not mean that you will be demotivated. We get motivated and demotivated because of our work. Because of what we are doing, that motivates and demotivates us. When it comes to satisfaction and dissatisfaction, this happens because of our environment. So we may be doing something very interesting and we love doing that, but suddenly the environment changes, like the light goes off, the AC is not working, the coffee is not there, the tea is not accessible. Those are certain things in the environment which makes us satisfied or dissatisfied. So this is where if your colleague or if someone with whom you share your daily gossip or something suddenly goes and you are not able to meet that person, that might be affecting you a little. Yeah. And this is where understanding that informal change is important. So any kind of informal change would be something which is not imposed by the company or by the hierarchy or by the top management to bring a change in your daily routine, but because of your you can say informal relationships which are not formally established by the organization, there are certain changes happening and you have to accommodate yourself in those changes. These are informal changes. Sometimes they have a big impact, sometimes they just don't matter, and you just move on from those informal changes. Yeah. The next one is the in the organizational change. The next thing which is very important to understand is the organizational culture, and I would say rather I'll put this as culture. This can, I mean, the syllabi says organizational culture, but I would say culture for that matter. Culture is such an important aspect of understanding change and dealing with change. So when it comes to the culture, there are things related to it like challenges. You may face cultural challenges. Yeah, you may face in the culture when it comes to individual cultures or in group. Yeah, so you can have both the types of perspectives. Then it can be related to your geography. Yeah, which part of the world you are living. So there could be these cultural changes related to challenges in a culture, related to individuals who are from a culture, related to groups who are in a particular culture, or related to geography, which is there in a particular culture is followed in that geographical area. If you would see, culture is something which is very diverse. All over the globe, culturally people are divided and they have their own ways of thinking, eating, sleeping, going out, talking. It is diverse, and that's the beauty of the diversity in an organization, that different cultures come together and they work with each other so that they can accommodate with these different kind of changes. So sometimes it can happen that you are working with, if it is a group, let's say, and you are 4 of people in a department, and then all four of you belong to one particular city. Say you all are from UAE, or you all are from Delhi, or you all are from say Calcutta, or you are from US. So you are basically a group of people from a same geographical area, and you might be speaking the same language. Suddenly there's a new guy in, and now that new person is probably from Uganda, and he speaks a totally different language. He's a totally different race, caste, culture, creed. Everything is different about that person. Fooding habits, it is pretty bizarre. But I have observed this that with some of the people, the food habits are so different, and the food taste and smells so different that sometimes it is not possible for some people to accommodate themselves having food with them. Yeah, and people understand. If you see the African food or the Filipino food, it's something which is full of aroma, okay, and it has a different aroma altogether. And sometimes it becomes difficult for group of people to sit and have food because it has a different aroma. For some people it will be beautiful, for some people it will be spongy, and they will be like, no, probably we don't want to be in that area where that smell is coming. I'm talking about a very specific small thing, but that does not impact your way of working. You keep on working in the similar fashion. So sometimes dealing with changes could be difficult because you may have your own conducive atmosphere. 4 of you are working together, and then suddenly one person comes in and then you have to work with that another new person. So again, when the changes can be in a group, the changes can become or be there because of geography, it can be because of the individuals, it can be because of certain challenges in a culture. So if you will go to the Middle East is a diversified place with people with diverse cultures, and the most important part is that culturally certain things are allowed and certain things are not allowed. Yeah, Saudi is a different market altogether. Culturally, you are restricted on doing certain things which are probably not followed in the culture. So you have to respect that culture, and you have to work with that change, which is probably being with you, or it is a change for the group of people. So it can be an individual change. Probably everyone else is okay with that kind of a change, moving to probably your new branch office is coming in Saudi or Brunei. It's more or less, these both markets are quite similar to each other when it comes to culturally being one very refraining on certain areas. They have their rules and regulations, and you have to follow that. So when it comes to the geographical markets, you have to keep in mind that the culture could be different, and you have to accommodate yourself with that culture. So that kind of a change you have to be ready with. This is why a lot of organizations, when they see that they have to bring a change and there is a cultural restriction to it, some kind of a cultural restriction, probably related to challenges in that culture, probably related to individuals or group behavior within that particular culture, or related to a geography of that culture. It's like if you go to Canada, a lot of people love Canada. But for some people, it could be like, oh, it's too damn cold. London, people just get fascinated. Oh, my London is so beautiful. But in reality, a lot of people who come down from London, they say we don't see sunshine. Around the year, it's very difficult for us to have a look at the sun. Yeah, it's so gloomy. It's always so dark as weather. So it depends. Geography can have its own challenges, and dealing with certain changes, in that particular geography could not be easy. So every time, whenever you are dealing with culture, in all these different aspects, and these are not just 4 aspects, these are 4 aspects which I have written. You can think of so many things. Try to imagine when last someone probably flew down from Africa or from China or from Singapore, and they are diverse, they are very different in their culture. Yeah, or if you are probably from China or Singapore, then try to imagine someone coming from the Middle East. Yeah, he would be a different person altogether. So culturally, you would face all these kind of different aspects in change. When you are dealing with change, you will have to see that culturally these all aspects play a very important role. So when it comes to the organizational perspective, if you will see your learning outcome, it is talking about the role of managers. It is talking about the external reality of all these different kind of changes which are culturally motivated or probably related to any kind of informal change, or it is coming because of a diversity. Probably there's an external influence, and because of that external influence, there is a kind of diversity in that external influence, and it is trying to enforce that change on you. So that could be a reason. Example, government, sometimes they force certain changes to happen. They are influential and they force these changes. Like in India, the government came up with the rules of bringing changes and consolidating the banks. So a lot of the public banks are being consolidated and they are being privatized. A lot of privatization of other industries are happening. So these are certain changes which in the government would play a role, and they are influential. So there could be external influences which would try to bring changes. So in the first, in the learning outcome, the first organizational changes, you will find the perspectives of informal changes, you will find the perspective of culture, and you will find the other perspective of what is the role of a leader. As I explained in the past as well, I was explaining you that as a leader, you are going to play a very different role. As a leader, you have to instill those changes in the people. You have to see to it that these changes are happening properly. There's a proper transition period. You can use the Kotter's model. You can use the Levin's model, the theories for implementing those changes. But understanding organizational cultural perspectives of change. These are certain perspectives which you can keep in mind. I'll write it down for you as well. So informal changes, cultural changes, some of the perspectives, and then you can have the other perspective, as I said, was of any external influence. Yeah, external influence could trigger a change. Okay, and then I can also give you the idea about I said about the role of managers. Yeah, or leaders, I would rather write, not only managers, role of leaders. Yeah, another thing which is very important, and from an organizational perspective you should understand, emotions. Oh my god, this is this is something which is I would say a lot trickier. Emotions are, sometimes they tend to work with people, and you have to understand that emotions are a kind of term. It's a kind of term wherein it becomes a lot difficult to deal with when you are bringing changes. So people are emotional because of their formal relationships, and sometimes people are emotional because of their informal changes, and informal relationships. So it is always important to deal with emotions and see that probably where it can trigger the uprising, where it can trigger certain apprehension among people, where can it trigger revolt in the people when it comes to emotions. So you should always bring changes. If you are bringing any kind of a change, example, you want to bring a new person, we always say in an organization, placement is the most important thing. And what I mean by placement is that when you bring a new person in the organization, you are bringing change, you have to make the people already in the organization comfortable, and the one who is coming in should be comfortable as well. So proper introduction, where that person will be sitting, who are the colleagues, and introducing that individual is the important task of this whole process. And this is where the change and your role as a leader is going to be so important to understand the emotions of the individuals or a group of individuals, which would, I can give you an example. Let's say if I'm trying to bring a change, again, it's a bizarre example. I'm not generalizing it. I'm just trying to make up an example, okay? So if I want to bring a change in a company, let's say IT company, I'm bringing a new project manager or a quality manager into a project, and I want my team to get introduced to this particular person. So probably I'll do it during lunch, and if it is Hyderabad, then I'll order biryani. Yeah, probably one of the best restaurants which serves biryani. I'll order that, and I'll have everyone feast. Yeah, so I'm trying to play with the emotions. I'm trying to work out the emotions, and at the same time doing those introductions, doing those changes. So it is important for a leader to understand emotions at one point. And I just gave an example of biryani. It can be any bizarre thing on earth. Sometimes people go for chillings, they go for small outings and they introduce changes. They don't want to talk about so formally, so they make certain things informal and then they introduce changes. Why? Because they have to deal with the emotions. So this is what is there in the first topic, where you need to understand organizational cultural perspectives of what kind of changes could be there. So in organizational cultural perspectives, there are cultural changes, informal changes, then there are external influences, role of leaders, and the emotions which play an important role. Okay, so next thing which I have written in front of you is power and politics. I've written this in red because I believe every one of us, there are certain aspects to our way of behaving in an organization, and the way of responding to situations in an organization, and to deal with situations in the organizations. And these all things are related to when we do all of this, it is related to power and politics. So no doubt about it, it plays a very crucial role, the power and the politics in an organization. So first I'll introduce you power. Okay, so what in terms of power? Now, when it comes to power, there are different kinds of power which basically are there in an organization, in which the first one is the legitimate. Okay, so what is a legitimate power? A legitimate power is basically a power which is given to you as an authority and you deserve it. Like, you are someone who is having the power because you have years of experience you have earned, and now you are the CEO in the organization. Or I'm not talking about power only related to the top management. It can be lower level management as well. You know, someone who is probably a supervisor. He is a supervisor. Why? Because he has worked for years and now he has the experience and he can run the show. He can manage a team. He can supervise a team. I will not even use the word manage. Supervise a team. So someone who's being a supervisor has been made a supervisor and is trying to be powerful and use that power to manage the foremen or to manage the working lower level workers or laborers, because he has the years of experience. So that is something which is an example of legitimate power, because you have years of experience and you have been authorized, given the power from the organization that you should be able to do this particular task using your power. Same thing goes with the CEOs, CFOs, CEOs, Chief Executive Officers, Financial Officers, or Operation Officers, CEOs. They also get this power because they have years of experience and they have managed that kind of business in past, and now they are appointed as one of those key essential people and they are managing things in the organization. So legitimate power is that, where you are legitimately given the power and you deserve that power because you have a legacy behind you. Yeah. Then it comes to next one, which is an expert power. What is an expert power? Example, an architect. I'll give you an example between the architect and the structural engineer. Architect has the power to make the structure beautiful. Yeah, he will come out with the most beautiful design of something which looks aesthetically eye-pleasing. That's the job of an architect. Okay. Now, but when it comes to your structural engineer, he has the power because he is an expert of engineering. He will say that, okay, fine, your beam is, you have given 3 beams here, but structurally it is not possible. You need to just give 1 beam. It may look very beautiful because of the 3 beams which you have given, but that's not the case. Or you want the toilet to be in this particular area of the whole office or the house which you are designing with your architecture, but there is no pipeline available. So structurally it is not possible. So those kind of things are basically where an expert would come and give the suggestion, and that expert suggestion gives the power to the expert. Lawyer, doctor, chartered accountants, they all have that power. Why? Because they are professionals and they are professional expert. So this is where in organizations you'll find certain expert. One are those who have the legitimate power, another are those experts who are basically there because they have the expertise, and that's how they draw power to implement certain decisions in the organization. Then you will find other types of powers like of reward, information, yeah, and then you have the coercive. So basically these all are other different types of powers. That's a very these all are very, you would say, I would say self-explanatory kind of words which make you understand what kind of power I'm talking about. Reward power. You did something good, you have been appreciated, you have been given that power. Okay, fine, now onwards you will be doing this because you have done good. That's a reward. So you have got the power in a reward, and now you can do whatever you want in related to that particular activity. So that somehow those powers come in reward. Okay. Then information. People who have information with them, they can make use of power. I think lot of times when it comes to these people, astrologists, that's information, right? And they become so powerful. So I think in the Indian subcontinent, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, where there is a lot of role of astrologers, especially I mean in certain parts of the country. I would say they tend to draw this power and use it because they have information with them. Yeah. So with all those kind of things which they can imagine and they can say, what are they sharing? They are sharing information. Yeah. Ministers, they draw power from information because they have certain information with them which can make them really powerful. Our media, yeah, that's again a very good example of power. So if you see media has information, and because of that they are able to draw power in a society. Within an organization, if you have certain information, probably top management, you are someone who's very closely working with the top management and you know what is going to change in the organization, how much bonus is coming next month, or how much increment is going to happen in this year, or there will be no increments at all. So if you have those kind of information, you'll absolutely become powerful. Yeah. So that is an information related power. Coercive is something wherein a power is established, coercively given. You have been given a power and you have to use it. So in a very formal setup, when the power is given formally to you, that is basically your coercive power. Now again, there would be, if in your learning outcome you'll find similar very self-explanatory words which are related to power. But what the idea is, what I'm trying to give you the information here is, try to imagine your work, and within your work try to see which area or which part of among these powers you fall. What has been? Have you ever been given an reward power? Have you ever been? Are you someone who has the information and you use that as a power? Yeah. So try to reflect on yourself. That would be something interesting if you would reflect on it, and you can use those in your assignments. That's the best part. When it comes to giving the perspectives and case studies, these are real problem solving in case studies. If you can bring your ideas from your work and you can give the explicit information in your assignment, these all things of your self-reflections are going to help you a lot. Then other than power, the next thing which I'm going to talk about, and it's something which is very interesting, is basically your politics. So politics is something which is even more dangerous, because this can be a lot of time driven by this. So when politics create power, it's the most difficult thing to deal with. Now, when I say politics create power, what do I mean? There could be things like political interventions. There could be things like resistance and barriers. Yeah, there could be things like competition or security. Yeah. So these are different aspects. These all are different aspects which you will find in your learning outcomes. I'm just putting that down to give you a perspective. Then you will also find constituencies. Yeah, and then you will find the conflict of interests. Yeah, all of that is basically part of the politics. So now, all in all, I'm going to give you two perspectives to politics. Okay, the first perspective is these are models. Okay, the political models, and so you will find this in your learning outcome. But I want to give you a perspective to politics, and these are two of them. So I'll draw the first one for you. Okay, so this is called as political behavior. Okay, So what is political behavior? Basically, political behavior is regulated by two things. One is the organizational antecedent, and another is individual antecedent. Okay. What is antecedent? In very simple words, antecedent is anything which you get gradually over the period of time. So it is like succession of power. Okay. So either you proceed or you succeed power. Not as power only, and antecedent is anything which is coming to you as kind of flow of something. So in very simple words, so that's what an antecedent is. So individual antecedent is basically something which you are getting or receiving because of yourself as an individual, and organizational antecedent is happening because of the organization's reasons. Okay, so you'll get the idea. Example, in individual antecedent, the first I would say point is the political skill. Okay, so what basically I mean by political skill is that you have the skills as an individual to use politics for creating power. So that is an individual antecedent. No one gave you this. No one asked you to use politics for creating power, or you did not get that power because the organization gave you. You had the political skills. You were a good political. I mean, I'm not saying that you are political. And it's nothing bad in being political, Sometimes you have to be diplomatic while dealing with people. Two people may tie their horns and fight with each other. Political decisions help these situations. So if you have good political skills, then you try to mitigate certain situations. So antecedent, individual antecedent, you'll be able to get you'll have this. Why? You will have a political behavior. Why? Because you have political skills. Okay. In organizational antecedent, this may have happened. You may not have an individual antecedent or a political skill, but because of scarcity of resources in an organization, you have got the power. You have been appointed as someone manager, and now because there were scarcity of resources and you have got that particular position, and you are using your position to use political methods of generating power and regulating things. Good, in a good manner, yeah. So this is where organizational antecedent is something which is a natural progression, where there is scarcity of resources and organizations cannot help that situation. Another example I'll give you, it's like role ambiguity. What is role ambiguity? Role ambiguity is when the roles are not defined, yeah, and there's a lot of I would say lack of decentralization, yeah, proper delegation of authority has not happened, and the role has become ambiguous. You are into hundreds of different things. You are doing this also, something into marketing, finance, and HR and marketing. You are everywhere. This is where the political behavior could be seen a lot, because there's a ambiguity in your role, and the delegation of power has not happened properly. Delegation of activities, delegation of responsibilities have not happened properly. This is where you will find the political behavior. Then performance evaluations. Performance evaluations. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes it is because of the performance. You have the pressure on you, and you have been you going to be evaluated on your performance. So people get mean. They're like, no. This is where I'll not back down. It's about me. It's about my evaluation. It's about my team's evaluation. I will make everyone perform. So you use power, you use politics. You use both, or you use politics to create power enough power to ensure that your performance is at power. At the right area at the right time to get things done. So that's basically your performance evaluations and promotions. In individual antecedents, you will find, as I said, political skill. You have political skill. That's why you are showing political behavior. The other example could be internal locus of control. Okay, internal locus of control is basically you have a lot of things within your control. So your resources which are there, they are basically in your control, and you have these resources within your control, and you control that particular environment. That gives you power. So if there are things within your reach, within your proximity and control, you tend to have the political behavior. So if there is internal locus of control internally within an organization or a department, you are handling a couple of things, then yes, you would find the internal locus of control. And then it could be expectations of success. Yeah. So you'll find expectations of success. You'll find a lot of people expecting success. And that's what motivates them to have, political power. They tend to drive the political behavior. You will see that because of the expectation of success within these people. So that's what basically you will find in power and politics. So you will find different kind of powers, as I explained to you. It can be either because of your expertise, it can be because it is a legitimate power, it is coming because of the reward, or if these powers are there with you, then you may use these powers because of there are certain things happening at the organizational level, or there are certain things happening at your individual level. Because of that, there's a political behavior in the organization. So you'll find different kind of people. You can say 4 types of political behaviors are there, and these behaviors are distributed among the level of people in the organization and the type of relationship. So if it is an informal relationship and the level of your friendship with someone, or your level of yours in an organization is probably lower level, then you fall in a quadrant of weed, okay, which is basically you're someone who's informally discussing something with other people, or you're using your power informally, you're playing your politics informally and at the lower level. So that is weed. Then there is wood, wherein you are someone who is basically sitting at a higher level, but mostly your politics is related to informal setup. Yeah, there's a lot of informal things which are happening. So that is basically wood. So again, this is a different diagram. There would be notes with you. You can go through it. It's a very simple explanation that how, as per the hierarchies of top level, middle level, and lower level, how these political behaviors differ among the people. Who is basically a weed, who is a wood, yeah, and that's how basically all the quadrants are filled in the 4 types of politics. So then there is high ground, and then there are rocks. So yeah, you will get to read about that a bit in your notes as well. So this is this is your power and politics. The last thing which you need to understand, change when it comes to any kind of change which is happening. One was from the organizational perspectives, another was the change when it comes to power and politics, how power and politics brings the change. The last one is your learnings about the organization. Okay. The last part of the organizational perspective is the learning. What do you learn in an organization? You all are working professionals, or those who are the working professionals, you would know that over the period of time you have learned a lot in the organization. Yeah, you have been working hard, and you have been, over the years, you have years of experience have made you realize so many things in the organization that this has become a daily routine. Your power, your politics, your change management, it has become your daily job, daily work. This is where, when it comes to this session, we are trying to give you a perspective of an umbrella perspective, that probably you may be busy so much in your work that you are not able to see the organizations from an outsider's point of view. Yeah, or you yourself, you are not able to see yourself from an outside, or from a peer's review. Okay, from someone who is probably observing you in a different manner. I want to give you some some kind of perspective towards how you want to think. So now here, the first thing which you'll be learning from an organizational perspective, organizational learning perspective, is system thinking. What is systems thinking? How a system in the organization is working. A is connected to B, B is connected to C, C is connected to D, Z is connected to F. There are people who work in the organization, and the department, some department works very conducively, some are, enemies to each other. I'm not saying enemies like everyone fights, no, nothing like that. But yeah, if you would go and see, finance department would always be not happy with marketing department. Finance get budgets, marketing will spend them, and there is no return on investments. Always questioned about your efforts of marketing something. Sorry, and have those efforts, so the money which you have spent in marketing, how I would know that they have given the right return? Are the people really coming to the store because of your marketing? So there's always questions on the marketing department, and finance is behind budget. Systems thinking. This is why it is so important as an individual. Now, if you reflect, just try to reflect within your organization. You would try to remember that there are situations when you would see that if I want to get this work done, I should not approach this department directly. Rather, I should go and talk to that person, and he has the right influence to get my work done from this department. That's what is system thinking. Because there are systems made by the organization, formal systems, but they have a greater influence informally as well. So you need to have that system thinking, that how basically the organizations operate, how different departments in the organizations and systems within the organization operate. If you will do a mind mapping, sit with yourself and see and learn and understand that how exactly systems in your organizations are working. Is the department doing what they are supposed to do? And if there is a change happening, or if you want to bring a change, will that change be for good, to make sure that the system is working appropriately? A lot of times systems have defaults, or I would say rather faults, not defaults, have faults because there is no system thinking happening. Or in that system thinking, the change is so important to bring because of certain people or certain processes which are bottlenecks to get the maximum out of the productivity of people working in that particular system or people working into that particular department. So think from that perspective, how systems in your department or in your organizations are, and what kind of change you want to bring in that system so that it can enhance the productivity of the entire system within your department or within your organization, whatever is in your control, whatever level you are working. Then personal mastery, like few people, learning is something in organizational, you learn systems and then you try to master yourself, your skills, like you get so good at it that you are someone whom people would come up to or listen to for bringing changes related to your line of work. So this is where your personal mastery is so important. You need to be master of certain skills or areas, or your understanding of people or observing things. And if you are so good at it, people would tend to come to you for understanding changes or for making certain changes, or your opinions would matter a lot. So that kind of a learning, organizational learning, is important, that you become master of one, or probably jack of all trades is also fine. Eventually it should be a personal mastery in either you become master of one or jack of all trades. Shared vision. So one learning is that if you are thinking about any kind of a change, you need to think from a vision perspective. You can't just have your vision and everyone should follow it. A change is something with which you have to make sure that everyone understand why you're bringing that change, and it is through a shared vision, that you have shared a vision with everyone. Remember the quoter's theory, in which he says that you have to make sure that everyone is onboarded when you are unfreezing people, and and you're trying to bring that particular change. You have to make sure that everyone understands clearly why you are bringing that change. You have small wins, yeah, you micro wins, you do those micro wins, and everyone is like, wow, this change is going to be nice because there are micro wins in here. And that's how you bring changes. So you need to share your wins with people and then have a shared vision. Everyone is on boarded and they are like, yes, we should be able to, follow this person because we also share the vision, what he's sharing. So bringing that awareness among people and sharing that vision is so important for you to have an understanding of the organization. It's a learning that how you can share your visions with people and then bring changes in the organization. Then knowledge development. Indeed, learning more about the organization, systems, people, behavior, observations. These all are your own reflections, your knowledge about your industry, about your people, about your process. So people, process, prepositions. You have to learn these three things. You have to continuously develop your knowledge in these three areas to bring better changes in the organization. If you keep on doing it, it will be so much easier for you to bring changes in the organization. Remember, people, process, and prepositions. So you need to get more knowledgeable about your people, do activities which make you learn about your people. You need to learn more about your process through system thinking. You need to learn more about prepositions, what new you are doing, what innovations and commercializations you are bringing in the organization, and you are doing something new with the people. So you are trying to become a knowledgeable person. You're developing your knowledge, you're enhancing your learning of the organization so that you can bring that essential change in the organization. And then comes learning cycle and curve. So knowledge development does not happen in day one, over a period of time. Yeah. So it's a curve, it's a learning curve. If you join a new organization, or if you are working in an organization for a period of time, and if there is a change happening, if there is something introduced new to you, yeah, you are doing anything new, that new thing may be difficult for you to adapt in the beginning, but then you would be able to learn it over the period of time. It's a cycle through which you will be going and learning, and then it will be a kind of curve, a bell-shaped curve, where you learn at high speed and then things get stagnant when you know a bit more about, you get to know a lot about things, and then you are like, okay, I know everything. It happens with every one of us. We all feel that we all know everything. But then, you get stagnant for some time, and then there's a bit of decline in your knowledge, and then again you tend to learn more, and then you again get stagnant, and you keep on growing. So your curve will also always be up and down. Learning never stops. It's a continuous process. So that's what learning cycles are, that they go up and enhance your knowledge. It gets stagnant for some time because you think that you know everything. You start declining, and then again you jump up. So that's how your learning cycles work, and these curves are, again, I've made it down majorly. Learning curves are always up, but yeah, if it is bell shaped, then it gives you a perspective that your learning should never stop. It should continue, and it should happen over the period of time. So that's what is there in your organizational learning, all in all. Giving you a perspective, again, just to recap, that you have your organizational aspects of what are the different aspects in the organization when it comes to being a role of a leader, or informal relationships, or your cultural challenges. So understanding the organization from cultural perspective, understanding the organization from power and politics perspective, and understanding the organizations from learning perspectives are three main key areas of your learning outcome to understand change from different perspectives. So I hope this session would be helpful to you. You would have supply of notes as well to go through your work, your coursework, and attempt your assignments. We'll see you again in the next learning outcome. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.